U.S. conventional military power, jets, battleships, and all types of troops are now committed to fighting and even preempting international terrorists. Secretary Shultz's remarks about the military combating terror stem from the top-secret National Security Decision Directive signed by President Reagan in April. The directive committed all U.S. forces except nuclear weapons units to battling terrorism. The forces will be tailored to the level of the threat. But for hostage barricade situations and the rescue of kidnapped U.S. citizens, a secret counter-terrorist unit called the Joint Special Operations Command, or JSOC, will go into action. JSOC is composed of a number of units, including Army Rangers and Special Forces Delta teams, along with Navy Sea, Air, Land, or SEAL Frogmen, and other military units. We're aboard an MC-130 Combat Talon aircraft of the U.S. Air Force's 1st Special Operations Wing. We're on a mission right now, simulating the penetration of enemy territory at very low altitude. We're only about 150 feet above the terrain. This aircraft is designed to penetrate deep inside an enemy nation to support Special Forces troops operating with guerrilla units. In this exclusive report, CNN went on a number of exercises with this heretofore secret unit and saw a wide range of its capabilities. The first, a very low-level penetration of simulated enemy territory, followed by the parachuting of a combat control team into the Gulf of Mexico for a waterborne infiltration mission. The team sergeant leads his flipper-equipped unit out of the Combat Talon aircraft, clomping out of the open tail ramp behind their rubber assault boat, an ungainly but apparently effective jump method. Though strung out over a quarter of a mile, the 6 team members swim back to the assault craft, rig their gear and outboard motor, and move out, later picking up this reporter dispatched from another craft.
What we're doing is simulating a beacon placement mission where we'll place a beacon near their headquarters so that the fast movers fighter type aircraft can come in and neutralize the command and control center that they have set up.
The combat control team approaches landfall, and a scouting party goes in to check out the area. The balance of the team follows, stealthily approaching a grove of trees near the target. The radio beacon men move out. When they return, the team quietly departs the area and heads for the boat. Later, another Combat Talon demonstrates a rescue. Thundering into a short, barren airstrip, the MC-130 drops down steeply as it would in combat to avoid small arms fire. It smacks down smartly as its pilot applies full reverse thrust and heavy brakes. Turning around rapidly, he lowers the tail ramp. This reporter and an Air Force sergeant simulating rescuees scramble aboard as the pilot, wasting no time, adds full power and begins an assault takeoff. Another rescue method, called the Fulton Recovery System, was demonstrated next. A balloon is launched to an altitude of about 800 feet. Just below it are 2 red flags which indicate the pickup point. In the air, the aircraft commander opens the V-shaped yoke and heads straight for the gap between the red flags. Using precise handling skills, the pilot hits the nylon rope dead on. The balloon bursts as it is designed to, and its tether is hand-grabbed by a crewman leaning out of an open flight deck hatch who ties down the rope for safety. A weighted container simulating a person is pulled straight up and dragged behind the aircraft, flying at 150 miles an hour. Held in by a hydraulic lock at the center of the V-shaped yoke, the rope trails behind the aircraft, where it is snagged and winched aboard. At one point, the rope becomes snagged around the tail, and the pilot shakes his controls until the rope slides free, leaving the crewman to winch in the weighted container. Next came a demonstration of a high-speed airdrop. Because the Combat Talon does not have to slow down to parachute equipment, an enemy watching on radar would see no change in airspeed and could not determine the position of the airdrop. With its sophisticated onboard navigation systems, hundreds of pounds of cargo can be delivered at night and in the worst weather to within a couple of hundred yards of the target. The 250-mile-an-hour drop speed gives enemy gunners only a fleeting target. As in Grenada, if a special operations unit gets pinned down or surrounded, this AC-130 has the sensors and guns to deliver massive firepower with surgical precision. Though the AC-130 dates back to Vietnam, it remains a very potent weapon for special operations. Armed with twin Vulcan 20mm guns capable of firing 3,000 rounds per minute each, it also carries a gyro-stabilized 40mm automatic cannon and a huge 105mm howitzer. The AC-130 enters its trademark 30-degree left bank. Flying at 5,000 feet, the pilot calmly lines up the target, a single 55-gallon drum positioned next to a truck. In the aircraft's midsection, operators use high-tech sensors to find targets night and day and in bad weather. Using a laser illuminator, low-light level television zeroes in on the target. So does the infrared sensor, and a device called Black Crow seeks out the running engines of cars and trucks. On the first pass, Spectre lets loose with 20mm high explosive and armor-piercing rounds and 40mm mish metal fragmentation shells. Though the drum is set afire, he comes around again, and a direct hit sends it up in a fireball. Next, the 105mm howitzer is put into action. The pilot calmly lines up the target in his gun sight and squeezes the firing button. He consistently puts the big white phosphorus shells on target. Switching to high explosive warheads, the crew feeds the howitzer as round after round hit the targets 2 miles away. Given the rising tempo of international terrorism, and the necessity for the United States to counter it by operating on the very edges of belligerent conflict, it will in all probability be the men of the 1st Special Operations Wing who will air deliver the counterpunch. From Hurlburt Field, Florida, this is Chuck Caro, CNN on Special Assignment.